everyone, I'm Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing The Exorcist Believer. I did not watch the original Exorcist, but I heard enough about it that I feel like I know the gist of it. And then I've seen other Exorcist type movies, and like it's pretty much the same plot, just with like little variances. But this one is about two girls, and I don't think I've ever seen one depicting like two people getting possessed. Usually it's just one, and then the other one gets it, or something like that. But it was these two girls, and they both get possessed by, I assume, the same demon that possessed Reagan in the first movie, because the mom comes back and she's like, "Oh, you know me," and they're like writing out her name, or it's just a demon that knows about that. I really don't know. And so the movie has a lot to do with family and kind of learning about one's beliefs, and one's faith in themselves and God. And it's very much, if we stick together, we can meet anything kind of movie, but then it doesn't exactly happen that way, which is kind of interesting. It's more sort of like the demon like is playing tricks on them. So it's like a typical exorcism movie with like a twist, because this demon obviously knows more about these people than they do about themselves, and knows that whatever choice they make, because they're going to have to choose between the two girls, that it's a selfish move, and thus like that girl doesn't deserve to survive. And it's really, really sad, because I mean, these are two girls and they're dealing with their parents who have their own issues, and the demon's using those issues against them. So it was a very interesting type of movie, just it being that. I kind of get the feel that this is going to be that type of movie, because in the beginning, one of the girls' dads is there with his wife who's pregnant, and it's sort of like a flashback scene. Basically, the wife is given a blessing for the baby to turn out okay and everything to be okay with them, and the dad's kind of like, "Oh, do you really believe in that stuff?" And she's like, "Yeah." So you kind of feel like he believes in like, he only believes in so much, but he believes for the sake also of his wife. And then basically there's this big earthquake, and the wife ends up being critically injured, and he has to choose between the wife and the baby. And he ends up choosing the wife, and later that's used against him when his daughter is possessed. And he has to kind of like apologize to her as she's possessed to kind of get her back and be like, "No, like, you were right, I was wrong," like, and then also kind of like they made it seem at that point that he did not like care about his daughter, but it's clear that they had a pretty strong bond from the beginning of the movie. And I didn't get the sense throughout the movie that he would be one to be like, "I choose my wife over my daughter." I feel like we need to know a little bit more about his character, because I didn't think that at all. The other parents, you could see they were a little bit bossy. Obviously, they were religious, but they kind of held themselves higher, to higher standards, because of their religion and because maybe of their racial status. She kind of makes a comment like, "I didn't know our two kids were friends, and the other family is black." So that, I think, could have really been like examined a little bit more in the movie, but we kind of got the gist of it. And it made sense that that family was going to be the one that chose their daughter, because like they kind of come across as kind of selfish and everything, and then they end up losing their kid as a result of it. And then neither girl is possessed at the end. After that, one is dead and ends up being like sent to hell, I think. I'm not sure. And it's just kind of sad, because again, these were two friends that were just messing around in the woods. Basically how it all started was the daughter of the guy in the beginning who had the wife, he's a single dad, and he basically raised her on his own, and he doesn't like her going out because he wants to take care of her and everything. And so that's where you kind of feel like they have a bond here. Like, I don't understand why you would choose her, your wife, over her. So basically, he lets her go, and then she ends up going with her friend, and they go into the woods. I don't know what happens. They're like trying to contact her mother. I don't know where they learned that. I kind of wanted more about this. And then they end up disappearing for like 3 days. They end up going to the hospital. They're checking them out, seeing if they're okay or not. And the next day is when like things start happening, and they just continuously get worse and worse and worse. I feel like it was kind of rushed at times, and I think that they could have spent more time kind of like showing things happening to the girls. I feel like that was the whole point of the first Exorcism movie, where they focused like on what was happening with the child, rather than what was happening outside with the families and stuff. It was an interesting take, but I feel like it needed to be more balanced. And then the parents who go to church and everything, they take their daughter to church, and it's that one scene from like the trailer. They just kind of like want her to just kind of resume life and everything be okay. But that's not the case for either of them. And then the fact that they discovered that they were possessed, like literally was like 15-20 minutes into the movie. Like they were just like, oh, they're possessed. It was so quick. Like I feel like that could have like taken some time. And then the father, who obviously didn't believe in a lot of stuff, started to believe a little bit, but it was rather quickly, and I don't think that really made sense for his character. So there were just a lot of things that I think could have been done more smoothly, less rushed, and they had a lot of stuff that they could have focused on. And like the whole exorcism scene where like the father doesn't want to like come in, the priest doesn't want to come in and like exorcise the kids because like he's afraid, and he's just sitting in his car. It's like, oh my goodness, and then he ends up being the one who like dies because of it and like breaks his neck. And I'm just wondering what happens when the cops come. Like, what are they gonna say happens? And the girl with the dad, the single dad, she's the only one that ends up going to like a hospital room and ends up being restrained, and they keep her there, because she's like obviously not psychologically well, at least that's what they assume. And the other girl, like, they're just like so stubborn, and they're like taking her out again to church and stuff. And it's not until like things go wrong with her that they're like, oh my goodness, we need help. And it's like, you kind of needed help in the, like, why would you just like put her through like just her normal routine, after all that? Like, I think that she needed to be more assessed psychologically, or at least like cared for more psychologically by her parents, because like, yeah. But yeah, that's really all I could say about this movie. I think that it was a good movie. It wasn't a scary movie. There were certain parts where like there was some like things in the background, and then there was no explanation for it. And it kind of felt, like I said, very rushed, and like it needed something more to it. But I think it was a very interesting take, there being two girls and they both get possessed, and I really wanted to see, maybe they encountered something in the woods, maybe they were using a Ouija board, maybe they contacted something, maybe they visited like an old house. Like, I wanted something like that to make it make sense, but unfortunately it kind of fell flat. And they had another friend in the beginning who wanted to like hang out with them, and then the other friend, I guess, couldn't. And then she only shows up like when they're asking her like, hey, where are the girls at? And she has no clue and everything. So I'm kind of wondering like what happened to that one friend and everything. What are people saying now that this girl that disappeared for 3 days and now is dead? Like, what's going on with that? They didn't show the parents like them grieving or rethinking their decision. It was just kind of that moment where like everyone's in the room, and yeah, they're like grieving in that moment, but I kind of wanted to see the aftermath of that. Do they blame themselves in any way? Do they blame the dad in any way because he has his daughter back? And it's kind of really sad, like they're just all in the room and the daughter like comes back, and I'm just like, now they're left without a child. and we kind of see what happens to Elizabeth, that's the girl's name, up, not up, in hell, and how she's like herself again, and she's like all battered and bruised, and she has like the scars on her head and everything, and she's like calling out for her mom. She's okay now, and then these things grab her and pull her into the water or wherever it is, and it's just really, really sad. And I, the mom kind of like, she did she kind of agreed with the other dad. Like, she saw these two girls and everything, and she couldn't choose one. And she said, I can't choose one. It was the dad who was being selfish and ultimately made the mistake. So does that lead them to have trouble later on? I mean, it's kind of after the fact, but like, if this is a story about family, I kind of wanted to see that because we didn't get much of anything else. But yeah, they kind of just like ended it there. They kind of just made it seem like, oh well, we figured things out as a family. We're good. And this was a horrific process, but now it is over, and that's basically it. And I don't get why the demon just like plays a trick and then leaves the daughter. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it felt more messing with you kind of feel than it did like an actual possession and like things going wrong because of it. But yeah, those are my thoughts. So, I mean, it's a good movie, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. But thank you so much for watching. I hope to see y'all soon. Bye.